to another episode of Creating Powerful Impact. I'm your host, Shay Wheat, founder of Grace and Ease Productions, where we support entrepreneurs just like you with event-based marketing and sales strategies, allowing you to build your authority, your credibility, and your visibility in your industry. And today's guest is somebody that believes that just most, if not all, problems at work or even at home have to do with communication. It's a lack of communication. It's a misperception of communication. So much so that he wrote a #1 Amazon best-selling book called The Communicator's Playbook. And he believes that it can truly help all people in interpersonal communication. He is the CEO of Dynamic Developments, a performance coach, and he is dedicated to transforming leaders into effective communicators, specializing in team-focused, client-focused, and organization-focused development. Please help me welcome Brian Hendricks to the Creating Powerful Impact stage. How are you, Brian?
Doing great. How are you, Shay? Thanks for having me.
I'm excited because it's like, all right, communication. Right? I think that is probably
Yeah.
one of the biggest things that people will have issues with in
Mhm.
every area of their life and in business, right? You've got
Yes.
communication at home, you've got communication at work, you've got communication with your employees, with your team members, with
Mhm.
uh,
Yep. Yep.
it's kind of
Yes.
like a, oh my God, thank goodness you've written the playbook on how
Yes.
to
Thank you.
do
Yes.
it.
Yeah.
Would, would you tell us a little bit about like why is it so important and what are the benefits of taking a look at how leaders should dive into putting some energy into their communication?
Yes. So you mentioned it in that great intro, but to me, communication is the foundation of almost everything in this life when it comes to relationships. So whether it's your significant other, whether it's you and your kids, you and your friends from a personal standpoint, whether it's at work, if you are trying to work your way up, so what's your relationship like with your coworkers? From a leadership standpoint, to me, it is the #1 thing that can either make or break a leader, especially in today's world.
Mm,
When you ask people why do they leave jobs, I would love to tell you that money is not the #1 reason. It is. Let's be honest. Okay. So that's the #1 reason. But the #2 overwhelmingly reason why people are leaving jobs is leadership or management or boss, their supervisor, whatever the official title is. And when I work with clients, whether it's one-on-one or organizations bring me in, so many times what I realize is the leader's not a bad person. The leader's not intense. The leader's not rude. The leader's not mean and all these things that they have heard back from feedback. When in all actuality, that leader is just miscommunicating.
mm,
What they're doing, and we do this in our personal lives as well as our work lives all the time, is we communicate in a way that makes us feel comfortable because humans are designed to be comfortable. We
mhm,
want to be comfortable in everything that we do. So why should communication be anything different?
mhm,
What the book talks about, what I work with people on, is this idea of you have to learn to be comfortable being uncomfortable. Because when it comes to communication, it's not about what makes me comfortable. It's not about how do I want to be communicated with, especially in leadership. It's about how does that other person want to be communicated with? How does that other individual or how does my team need to be communicated with? And if I don't know how to adjust my communication, I'm going to be perceived in ways that I probably don't want to be perceived as.
So essentially you're speaking in their language. So if we were to look at like love languages or whatever, we're speaking in
Mhm.
their communication language
Language.
so that
Yes.
they can understand what it is that you're trying to get across. And instead, if you don't, then they're seeing you as like, oh my God, they just don't get it. They're just so intense. They're insensitive. They're
Mhm.
whatever. When in
Yes.
reality, like the visionary, the founder is going, I have these deadlines, we need to hit these marks, we need to da 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 da.
Mhm.
They're looking at it from that perspective. And coming
Yes.
down to the team seems like, oh my God. And then they're just changing things all over the place. When in reality,
Right.
if we change the communication into
Mhm.
your team's language, then they can
Yep.
go, oh, I get it. Okay, sure, we can handle that. Not a big deal. That's what I'm
Yes.
understanding.
100%. Here, I'm gonna tell a story to kind of illustrate that.
Yes,
So,
please.
I'm really big on 360-degree feedback because I think it's good to have your like your self feedback, but when you get feedback from your team, you're getting the real stuff of what you're doing well, what you're not doing well. So, about 2 years ago, I did a 360-degree feedback on myself, and my team did it on me. And one of the areas that I needed to work on was listening. And when I say that cut me deep, it was maybe I took that as one of the most hurtful things anyone could ever tell me. I have a master's degree in counseling, so I'm a former school counselor. I do like listening is one of my best traits and skills, is the way I think about it. So I remember talking to one of our trainers at the time. I said, okay, it says here on my report, I need to get better at listening. Like, I'll be honest, I'm struggling with that because I feel like I'm a good listener. I'm like, do you have examples of where I can improve? And she looked at me, she's like, anytime I come up with an idea or about a new workshop or a new event or something, she's like, you constantly interrupt me. She goes, and then you go off. And I'm like, and for me, if I interrupt an idea, that is me giving you props. That is me telling you I'm excited. That is me listening because I love what you just said. So we're going to build on it, and I'm going to go and we're going to do this and we're going to go over here and then we're going to build this. And at the whole time, at the end of it, you're going to get all the credit. And I'm so excited. That to me, that is what a good listener is. What
Mhm.
she needed was, Brian, stop talking. Let me get my idea out. Maybe sit on it for an hour and then come back to me with some feedback. Don't just interrupt and get excited. To say that was transformational was or is an understatement, because now I realize, hey, when I'm talking to people who are similar to me, they want me to interrupt. They want to bounce ideas off and be creative. If I'm talking to a different communication style, I need to sit down and shut up, honestly. And
Yeah.
even though I have all these ideas, this is not the time. Engage with them in the way that they need to be engaged with. And all of a sudden, my listening scores have gone through the roof now because I'm constantly adjusting to whoever I'm in front of.
Yeah, that's so good. And probably like the morale is so much better
Yep.
and
Mm-hmm.
the, team is like feeling like they're seen and heard and the synchronicity is starting to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And, for you to be like, oh, okay, that's really good. And keeping all of your notes to then sit with, to
Yep.
then go back to that person versus the one that's like, if you did that with somebody that's more your personality type, they'd be like, he hates it. He has to
Right.
sit with it.
100%. Yes. Like, why isn't he talking right now?
Why
This
isn't
isn't
he
good.
saying anything?
Yes. 100%. Yes. Yep. So I think that's it. To me, listening is part of communication, but that's what the best leaders out there do. That's what the best communicators do, is they're not becoming another style, but they're adjusting their style to what the other person needs.
Yeah, doing the mirror and modeling kind of
Yep. Hmm.
approach to it.
Yes.
And so,
Yes.
okay, are there communication styles like names and everything to them? Like,
Yes. So what's great about this is there's a lot of different resources out there. So you can get some of this information from Disc, is one of the most popular ones. My favorite is called Social Styles. There's the PI, Myers-Briggs, all of this will give you bits and pieces of it. My job then is to actually put it together and give you a system of how to work with it. But yeah, so the four I use four dominant communication styles or behavioral styles. Expressive, that is what I'm known as. Those are people who want the big idea. Hey, give me this creative solution. I'm going to talk with my hands. I'm going to show exactly what I'm feeling by my facial expressions. As you can see on the video, I can't say a word without using the hands to illustrate that point. Someone who's exact opposite of me is someone, I use my wife in this all the time. She's what's known as more of an analytical person. Give me facts, give me details, give me research. All the emotion, all the excitement that I want, she wants nothing to do with
mm,
until everything is proven right. Then you have someone who's known more as a driving style. The driver, they just get it done. I don't just get it done and move on to the next thing. What's the next task? What's the next task? They want to be in control of that situation. And then lastly will be the amiable style. So those are the ones that kind of your ultimate team first people. Hey,
mhm.
what's best for the team? Even though I want to do this, it's better for you if we do this. Okay, we're going to do what's better for you. So it's everybody else first and foremost.
Mm.
Um, and what's really interesting, in the book, we take a deep dive into this in a lot of the workshops, and it's a deep dive into, okay, how do we use our words, our tone, and our body language, which to me is communication and behavior, to affect all four of those styles.
Oh, okay. Well, and
One
probably
of
in your present, sorry to cut you off there, but like in
Yeah.
your presentations too, right?
Mhm.
So what I'm
Yep.
seeing, like, because I work with a whole bunch of speakers, coaches, experts,
Mhm.
thought leaders. And so if you're in a room doing communication and presenting,
Yep.
you've got to hit all of those different kind of personality communication types.
Yep. Yes, absolutely. And that's where we've developed a process called the dynamic communication process, where it's, I call it the cheat sheet of communication, where if you are trying to get your message out to your entire team, and your team is full of drivers, expressives, analyticals, and amiables, so you have all four styles. Well, how do I do that without actually having to sit down with one-on-one with every single person? Now, in a perfect world, we would love to be able to sit down one-on-one with our whole team. Can't always do that. So what my dad actually developed this and I've been using it. It's called the dynamic communication process. And no matter what the message is, the very first thing you need to do is talk about what are we doing here? Let's cut to the chase. What's the bottom line? That's
Mhm,
for your driving style. Because
mhm,
they're going to be locked in. All right, bottom line, this has to get done today. Then you answer the how question. How is for that analytical style? What are the details to get this done? You're giving that those details of why this is the right way to go about doing it. Then you actually take all those details and you break them down into short-term and long-term goals, which answers the when question for the expressive style. Because if you have something to do and it's 20 steps long and you come to an expressive who only thinks about this big, fun, creative picture and you give them 20 details, that person will be totally overwhelmed. They won't even get started because they don't know where to start. So what we have to do with that expressive style is break, hey, this week, this month, this quarter, we have to accomplish these five. Then we accomplish this, then we move on to the next five, then to the next five. And then the last question we answer is for that amiable style is the who. And that is, who does this affect? I say, why is this right for us as a team? Why is it right for you individually? Why is it right for our clients? Why is it right for our company? And all of a sudden, now you've connected with every person's main motivation or their main need in communication. So now it doesn't matter who's in the room, they're all going to buy in because they're connecting with what you're actually saying.
that's brilliant.
Yeah.
Like, that definitely deserves, like, having to go to a workshop or having you come
Mhm.
in and, like,
Thank you.
train your team, especially if you've got, like, a C-suite of leaders, right?
Right.
It's like
Mm-hmm.
training them on how to communicate with all of their team, right? Oh my
Yes.
gosh, that's
Yep.
huge, because I would
Yeah.
assume when you start to really dive into that, and get into that, would you say that's more of, like, the emotional intelligent piece of it? Would you say,
It's
like,
yes. It's so
explain
that's
that
what's
for
interesting.
us?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I that piece of communication, the versatile communication, what I call it, or effective communication, that is more or less a big chunk of emotional intelligence. So emotional intelligence is this big buzzword out there. Everyone wants to be more emotional intelligent. You know, Shay, we and I were talking, companies that are more emotional intelligent and invest in emotional intelligence training, their stock is actually higher because people are more engaged at work. People want to be there. Their turnover is less. So I hear this from clients. Oh, well, you do emotional intelligence, right? It's like, yes, it's actually a big, one of my favorite things to teach. And they're like, we don't know what it is, but we need it. I'm like, oh, okay, good. Well, chances are most people need emotional intelligence at work. So the question is, what actually is emotional intelligence? I'll start with what it's not. Emotional intelligence is not learning to be emotional. That's not what it is. If we look at going back to communication styles, we have those drivers and those analyticals. They're not going to be emotional. That is not how they communicate. That's not how they behave. That's not within them, right? The time they get emotional is when they have built a deep, long lasting relationship with someone. So, emotional intelligence is not saying everybody has to be emotional. What emotional intelligence is this idea of recognizing different emotions in other people and then behaving on what that person needs in that situation.
Mm, mhm,
So when you talk about emotional intelligence, it's not just empathy. Empathy is one of the big components of emotional intelligence. We can, I don't want to feel sorry for you, what's known as sympathy, but hey, I can understand the frustration. I can understand that you're annoyed with your supervisor or whatever it might be. So empathy is a piece of emotional intelligence, but we also look at confidence is a huge piece of emotional intelligence. Self-reflection. Can you do self-reflection so you know what emotions you have and what emotions other people have? How do you handle stress? Stress management is something I talk about in emotional intelligence. So this idea of emotional intelligence, people think it's controlling emotions.
mhm.
That's that is part of it, but there's so much more that goes into, hey, I have to not just understand my emotions, my feelings, my confidence. I have to understand it in other people. Then I have to know how to behave when I'm going through things. And then I have to understand how to behave when other people are going through things.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Ah, I love this. So, I mean, like you said, you're seeing the companies that are actually investing in having this training done for their teams. They're seeing the stock performance go up. You're
Yep.
seeing people that are saying yes and raising their hand and learning about this. You're seeing them get promotions over other
Mhm.
people. Like there's so
Yes.
many because I mean, if you really look at it, human beings just want to be seen and heard.
Yes.
That's
Absolutely.
it. That's
Mhm.
communication. So if we can
Mhm.
see and hear them in their language,
Yes.
then they're automatically gonna, like I just did, lean in, right?
Mhm. Yep.
To what it is that you've got going on, or how can I support you, or any and everything in
Mhm.
between.
Yes.
I love this. I love this
Absolutely.
conversation. Now, I
Yeah.
do find it interesting. You're mentioning that
Yes.
you and your wife are opposite in your communication.
Yes. Hmm. Very much so.
How does that work at home?
Yes. I would say now that we've recognized it,
Mm,
it has made it so much better.
yeah.
Um, I'm
Tell
a
me
so
about when it
being
didn't work and
didn't
you
yeah.
didn't realize it.
So
Tell us
I'll
that
tell you about
that
my
story.
I'll tell you the aha moment when I recognized it.
Okay.
Because that's so and one of the things you'll see, I'm expressive, so I tell a lot of stories to kind of prove my point. So a few years ago, a client had called and they wanted a sales presentation. Hey, how does communication link with sales? And I was like, oh, that's we do this all the time. Let's customize it for your specific needs. So I went through this whole slide deck, customized everything for them. I actually put together a brand new workbook. And for me, I was really excited for this because I had actually gone through and did the research. I had looked up the different theories and philosophies and looked up the studies and I went very analytical on this, which traditionally is not my favorite thing to do, but I knew it had to be done. So I went through and I was like, I felt really good about myself. I was like, this is great. So we're driving to Nebraska. My wife's family is all in Nebraska. I remember we're on I-80. I think we had just passed the world's largest truck stop, which is, just outside of Iowa City. It is fun if you're ever driving down I-80 in Iowa, check it out. But we just passed. I said, hey, I just finished this workbook. Can you go through this for me?
You
Like
asked your
just
wife
edit
this.
it. Yeah. My wife. Yes. I'm like, Jackie's her name. Like, can you edit this up for me? I will to this day defend that she is the greatest proofreader I've ever met because like it's unbelievable her just knack for details on this stuff. So she's like, yeah, I would love to. And I think it took her maybe 30 seconds. And she goes, your title's off center. Why is that italicized? And then she flipped the page. Your first sentence doesn't make sense here. Why'd you put that there? Shouldn't that be later? And she is tearing this workbook apart. And I specifically, and I did not say this out loud, but in my head, I kid you not, my thought was the person I've been with for longer than anybody else, the person I love more than anything else in this world is a total incomplete jerk. She is mean. She is rude. I cannot believe like you could feel my heart beating faster and the anger rising. And I was like, I cannot believe she's doing this to me right now. Like I worked so hard on this. And it was that the aha moment kicked in I-80 in Iowa, where I said, stop it. I teach people instead of reacting how to breathe. So taking that, so I literally practiced what I preach. I started taking deep breaths before I responded. I said, okay, what's happening here? And it was this idea of, okay, Jackie's analytical. She is doing exactly what her style says to do.
Mhm.
Edit, change, adjust, make everything perfect, which I wanted her to do. I needed her to do, but as an expressive, the way I needed her to do that was, Brian, this is really cool. You did this. Hey, I'm proud of you for getting this done. Why is your title off centered?
Yeah.
Hey, Brian, it's awesome. You did this and you got all the research. Cool. Your first sentence doesn't make sense though. Like as an expressive, I needed that. Good job. I'm proud of you. This is really cool. Then go ahead and tear it apart because that's exactly what I asked you to do.
Yeah.
But when you lead with that, with an expressive, with me, it was you're mean. Like you are a mean human being, is how I took it, which is the exact opposite of like, and for her, that was the nicest thing she could have done, was tear it apart, because now it's going to be perfect.
You're right. It's
Now
gonna
it's
be
going to
so
be
much better.
immaculate.
Yeah.
Exactly. So she was, her way of being nice, I misperceived as being rude. Where, like, for her, and I know this now, when she brings me something to look over and she doesn't come from me for a lot of detail. She goes, "Hey, can we be creative? Can you help me with this?" I
Mhm.
can't tell her anything's a good idea until I give her the idea and flesh it out.
Mm.
Here's why I think this is a good idea for your campaign. Here's why I don't think this is going to work. I can't just say, "Oh, here, do this and this and this." She's like, "That's why."
Yeah.
Well, we're like, she needs all those details to back it up. So that's one of the things that I would say, like, for us, realizing that, okay, we react differently to things means we need to communicate differently than we have at home. I link all of this to stress. So when I am at my max level, we go through a pattern of stress that I teach. When I'm at my final, like, wits end of something, I go total opposite of an expressive. I go, leave me alone. I will do it by myself. I want
Mhm.
nothing to do with human contact. I want nothing to do with relationships. Leave me in my office and don't talk to me till I get it done. My wife starts to see that process happen earlier, and she goes, we need to talk. She's like, "You are stressed. You either need to go for a walk, you need to do one of your meditation. Like, you need to do something to get out of this."
Yeah.
On the opposite end, when her first reaction to stress is to go alone, if I see that in her, I go, "Okay, something's not right. You're not ready to talk, but when you are ready to talk, I'm here."
Oh,
And then an hour, some time goes by, and she's like, "All right, here's what's actually happening." So we've learned to kind of, even though I want her to talk right now because that's what I would, she doesn't want that. So you give her the space.
yeah.
Yeah,
Ah, so good. So yeah, I mean, it truly is in life, in business,
yep,
it's the
it's
whole
everywhere. Yeah.
thing.
Hmm. It's true.
So okay, you guys, you're having this interaction in the car, and
Mhm.
you're like, okay, I'm gonna take a couple of deep breaths, and then how did you broach the conversation? That you're like, hey babe, can you kind of tell me it was awesome, and then give me the feedback? Like,
Yep. Yeah. It was literally like, I just realized something. She goes, "What?" I was like, "We think about things so differently," which we always knew. She goes, "Well, duh." I was like, "Yeah, yeah, that's not what I meant." Like, I was like, "Honestly, like, I was just really mad at you." And she's like, "Why?" I was like, "Because you didn't tell me a good job." She's like, "What are you talking about?" I was like, I wanted you so bad just to say good job." She's
mm,
like, "Why? Why is that important to you?" And I literally said, "I don't know why. But all I know is I didn't get the good job. And the second you started editing it, I took personal offense to everything you said." And she was like, "No, I wanted to help. Like, I wasn't offensive." I was like, "No, no." I was like, "Honey, I'm not mad. I'm not mad. This is me having a realization right now. Like, I realized fully that you were not being mean and you were actually being really nice, but I didn't take it that way right away." And it's like, so in the future, like, I know it sounds weird. And like, she's, to this day, she does not understand why I need
a
it's something as
delay.
simple as doing the dishes, cleaning the house. "Hey, thank you. Good job doing that. Now I'm going to go redo it because it's not as good as I wanted it." Like, I get it. Fine. I tried. But
Yeah.
like, to this day, she doesn't understand why someone like me, needs that. "Thank you. I'm proud of you. Good job." Whatever. But she does it now.
Yeah.
Even that simple. And now it's like, "Thank you for recognizing that." And I know I didn't do it as well as I could have or should have. So I'll help you do it your way, you know? And
Yeah.
it has just totally changed so much of how we interact on a daily basis.
Ah, so good. Okay, Brian, like we could go on and on and
I,
on about this.
yes.
Um,
Yes.
and it sounds like literally the majority of it to get started is in your book. You want
Yes.
to tell us
Mhm.
about the gift that you have for our audience?
Yeah. So the book itself, and I would love to give away 5 free copies. So I think we're gonna put there'll be a special sign up link. And I will I'll give you the ebook version so I can email it directly to you so you can have it, instant access to it. But the book itself, it's kind of cheating because it's almost like a full workshop in a book. It's designed to really take all the stuff we've talked about plus so much more, and give you practical advice on how to become a better communicator. So I'm really big on learning the theory, the philosophy, the science behind it, But then I've met so many gurus out there who are so good at their catchphrases. Like
Mm,
they can tell you, like I was talking about, oh, hey, get comfortable being uncomfortable. And they don't tell you how to do it.
yeah,
But they're really good at repeating the fun, cool thing to say.
right.
The book will give you the fun, really cool thing to say, and then tell you how to actually do it. So
Mm.
each chapter is designed where you get a practical tool at the end of each chapter to help you become a better communicator.
I love.
The best, yeah, I would say the best compliment that I could have gotten on this book. I had a client read it, and I was at a networking event last night, and she was there. So this literally just happened. And she goes, we were talking to the whole group. She goes, if you haven't bought Brian's book yet, like go do it right now. She goes, it is one of the most incredible communication books I've read. She goes, so much so I got a copy for my 2 adult age kids so they can learn how to communicate at work because no one teaches them how to do that. Like I was like goosebumps, like the expressive in me was tearing up. I was like, that is the kindest thing I ever heard. But that's what the book is designed to do. It's I like to call it an airplane read.
Hmm.
Get it, finish it within 3 hours on an airplane ride, and then start practicing exactly what's in there.
Oh my gosh, so generous. So definitely click the link, be one of the first 5 to go ahead and grab that. Otherwise, head on over to Amazon and pick up a copy. Regardless, you're going to get some crazy awesome value out of the book. My last question for you is, what is a takeaway or a memorable note you'd like to leave our audience with today?
I'm gonna go back to that fun cliche thing. Get comfortable being uncomfortable. Whether it's communication, whether it's learning to ride a bike, whenever you're trying to do something new, you're going to be uncomfortable. So, when you start trying to communicate in a way that makes other people more comfortable around you, I promise you it will be uncomfortable for you because that's not natural. And that's a good thing because the more you do it over and over and over and over again, you start to expand your comfort zone and now you can reach other people. So I have so many people that say, well, I want to do it, but it feels weird. Yes, it does feel weird. It is uncomfortable, but you do it anyways. And eventually it starts becoming second nature. And then you go from someone who connects with just your style to someone who can connect with every person out there just by reading what they're putting down. You can almost in an instant pick up what they need and then adjust your communication for them.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for being with us today. And I want to
Yeah.
thank all of our listeners for joining us on another episode of Creating Powerful Impact. I'm excited for you to take all of these lessons and these resources that you've learned here today, start implementing them, and create even more impact in your world. Until next time, have an outstanding rest of your day. Thank you so much for listening to the Creating Powerful Impact podcast. If you are a successful coach, speaker, author, or thought leader who would like to be on this program, simply visit creatingpowerfulimpact.com/guest. If you are someone who got something out of this interview, would you please do me a favor and share this episode on social media? Just do a quick screenshot with your phone and text it to a friend or post it on your socials. Also, if you know somebody that would be a great guest, tag them on social media to let them know about the show and include the hashtag Creating Powerful Impact. I love seeing all of your posts and great guest selections. We are regularly putting out new episodes and content. To make sure you don't miss any episodes, go ahead and subscribe. Your thumbs up, ratings, and reviews go a long way to help promote the show, and they really mean a lot to me and my team. Want to know more about us? Head on over to our website, graceandeaseproductions.com, or follow me on LinkedIn, Facebook, or Instagram. Just look for Grace and Ease Productions on your favorite platform. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.